Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Bonta, AB 1695, who's been patiently waiting. That's item number 5.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. I'm pleased to present today AB 1695, the Stop Illegal Gun Sales Act, which seeks to tackle the flow of illegal guns onto the black market via straw purchasers with a two-pronged approach. And a straw purchaser, of course, is a legitimate buyer who purchases a gun simply to give it to someone who could not legally purchase a firearm, him or herself. So the two approaches are, one, first, the Act makes the knowingly false reporting of a firearm as lost or stolen a misdemeanor that places the reporter on the prohibited persons list for 10 years. While making a false report to law enforcement is currently a misdemeanor under Penal Code 148.5, I'm seeking to add such reporters to the prohibited persons list because allowing them to continue to purchase firearms would do nothing to deter their ability to straw purchase. This is an alternative approach to tackling the question of lost and stolen firearms, which has repeatedly earned the governor's veto here in this state, and it's based off of a Pennsylvania House Bill 1845 of 2008, which received broad bipartisan support, including from the NRA. The second thing the Act does is that it requires the Department of Justice to notify every potential gun buyer during California's mandatory 10-day waiting period that purchasing a gun on another's behalf is a crime. It also provides notification of other laws surrounding responsible firearm ownership. This proposal is based off a successful Los Angeles study and pilot program, which had some really interesting results. The study found that those who received the letter were twice as likely to report firearms as lost or stolen, and it also showed that there was an increase in firearm transactions not being completed, which could indicate that straw purchasers were being deterred from completing the purchase of the gun because they were doing something illegal. Finally, the bill requires the DOJ to post on its website a summary of firearm laws. We've been working with House leadership on both the Assembly and the Senate on this bill, as well as a package of other bills to help reduce some of the gun violence tragedies that we've seen in this state and in this nation. And I have no witnesses with me today, but I think the Brady campaign, as well as the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, will be making comment and public comment. With that, I'm open to questions from Mr. Chair and committee members.
Okay. Witnesses in support? Okay. Yes, no. You didn't have any, but any comment? You just want to make a, just let us know you're in support.
Yeah, I think the author made all the key points. So the California chapters of the Brady campaign are in support of the bill.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Ari Freilich on behalf of the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any witnesses in opposition? There they go. All right.
My name is Gerald Williamson. I would oppose the bill. It appears to place too light of a burden on the taking away of a person's right to keep and bear arms based upon simply a misdemeanor rather than a felony.
Thank you. And there you go. Whenever you're ready, gentlemen.
Craig DeLuz with the Firearms Policy Coalition and the California Association of Federal Firearms Licensees. Our concern here, first and foremost, is the redundancy of the measure. Basically, that many of the laws that they're going to be sent information on, they're already complying in the process in which they're conducting, and is also required to be posted there where they're actually doing the purchase. The other concern that we have is that basically adding another misdemeanor offense that would be a 10-year prohibiting offense. We're concerned as to whether or not one has to knowingly file a false report as opposed to just simply filing a false report. We're concerned that is going to basically take someone who's trying to comply with the law and make criminals out of them. For that reason, we ask your no vote.
Mr. Chairman and members, Sam Paredes representing Gun Owners of California, and this legislature has made it a tradition of using the 10-year prohibition on the ownership of firearms based on criminal acts of violence having to do with firearms. And by expanding that, we don't believe that is proper. And there are actually court cases going on throughout the country that challenge that aspect. And we believe they will be found to be unconstitutional. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ed Worley with the National Rifle Association. We too oppose the bill for numerous reasons. Part of it is that if you are filing the lost and stolen report and you inadvertently put information that's inaccurate on the report, does that mean you filed a false report now? So you go back and amend the report because perhaps you put the wrong serial number or the wrong make and model. You weren't specific to what's exactly on the firearm. I would contend that some local jurisdictions would then make the case that you filed a false police report. Now, you're prohibited from owning a gun for 10 years, not for a crime, not for even attempting a crime. That's a problem with bills like this. And I liked your quote when you talked about the legislature passes laws and not solutions. Because now what we're doing is imagine, because of all those laws being proposed here in the legislature, we are more than likely going to see over 1 million firearms transferred in the state of California. Imagine now 1 million letters being sent out to purchasers. Why don't we just use a Pony Express? In the digital age, we're going to be sending pieces of paper to people, hoping that they get it within a 10-day waiting period, hoping in the stacks of all the other junk mail they get from all the stores for sales and everything else and people wanting vacations and other things that are going on, that the author actually believes that they're going to actually open the letter and read the letter. Because here's part of the issue with the bill, is that when you go to attempt to purchase a firearm today, you take the handgun safety certificate or firearm safety certificate. One of the things that's covered in the booklet that you're given and that you read is the very information they're talking about. So now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate current law with the information people are given when they purchase a firearm. We're going to go through the horrendous cost of actually having a state agency generate paper, where every other state agency is going to an electronic system. You can do your driver's license online. So now we're going to waste millions of dollars of taxpayer money and fees that we have paid sending people a piece of paper. But also there's just a whole series of problems, Mr. Chairman. That's why we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in opposition? Are there any questions from committee members? Mr. Quirk.
A couple of things with regard to the arguments in opposition. First of all, they, I think, rightfully raised a financial question. I think that you have to think about that, but that's not our situation here. Here we're looking at the policy. In appropriations, they will look at the finances. It's probably $1 a letter. There are a number of things you could think of. Maybe that they only get the letter once, the first time they purchase a gun. And the other thing is if it can be sent electronically, that would, and perhaps even automatically electronically, that would certainly help. But again, that's not our purview here. There was a question about whether or not you should have a knowingly in there. I don't believe that's necessary. First of all, there was a question brought up, what if someone puts down the wrong make or model? That's not what your bill says. Your bill says makes a false report. A false report by its own nature is done knowingly, and the only kind of false report your bill is talking about is a false report that it's been stolen. So I think those arguments we can take care of. With that said, I will move the bill.
Okay. Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So filing a false report of this nature is already a violation of a penal code currently in existence. So where I agree with you is that I do think the Department of Justice should have an update on their website so that people can access it and know what the law is. What I don't agree with is prohibiting someone from owning a firearm for 10 years for committing a crime that is not a blatant misuse of a firearm or has not been an act of violence. I think that's a bit harsh and a bit extreme. And I don't know, it seems like it's created a new crime over an existing crime. So I'm with you on making sure people know. I'm not with you, though, on prohibiting someone for 10 years. That just We just had a bill where we were talking about not sending people to state prison because our prison systems are overburdened. And this bill, if it goes through and is signed by the governor, would do in fact the same thing. It would cause someone who is convicted of this crime and later on perhaps found to be in possession of a weapon because now they're a prohibited person. It would cause that person to go to state prison. That is the very thing that this body just said they did not want to do. So for that reason, I am opposed. Sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions? The chair is going to recommend an aye vote. I think and obviously it's for the other committee, the whole cost factor is very important, especially when you get through appropriations and move forward. That will be something you're going to have to work through with the new chair of appropriations. And in your closing, I just want you to kind of clarify whether or not there are any court cases that would, I know you're a lawyer, but that would make this unconstitutional. Would that be a problem? And I also know the legislature sometimes ignores whether or not it's constitutional or not. We go ahead and make laws because we're California and we do it anyway. But I am concerned that this could create some kind of difficulty. I'm not concerned at all about the 10-year probation on carrying a firearm. If you file a false report and you're convicted of it, I think that gets into some other problems that we may also ultimately have with people owning firearms and illegally owning firearms. And I also think it gets to the whole process of getting the guns out of felons' hands and criminals' hands and gang members' hands and others who make it a habit of filing false reports, which I think we all agree we want to get out of their hands and have a long-term prohibition on them having access to those weapons. So in your closing, if you can address that, and then we'll go from there.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. I appreciate the discussion and the debate and the sharing of ideas on this bill. One thing I want to first share is that on the issue of the 10-year prohibited persons list, let's make no mistake about the impact of straw purchasing. Straw purchasing was what allowed the users of the guns and those who engaged in violence in San Bernardino to do so. So while it may seem like an act that may not warrant in some people's minds a 10-year prohibition, it leads to extreme violence and tragedy. It's the linchpin that allows for guns to go onto illegal guns to go into the black market and be used by those who would do harm to others. So we think it's an important place to really make a difference, and that the 10-year prohibited persons list component of the bill is warranted. As to the arguments about the letter potentially, in some people's view, being redundant, or me apparently hoping that it will have an impact, we know that it has an impact. That is not up for debate because this letter has been used in L.A. and it had an impact. There's data and evidence that shows that it has an impact and that it changes behavior, that those who are straw purchasers don't pick up the gun, and that also there is an increase in reporting of lost or stolen guns, either falsely or appropriately, both of which provide important data to law enforcement. So we know that the data is there. There's no hope involved. There is real hard evidence to look at. As to the cost, we're open to cost reduction components. I think Mr. Quirk's suggestion about sending one letter, perhaps one letter per year, certainly if you're purchasing multiple guns, but it's the same purchaser, just one letter, not one for each gun. We're open to that. We're interested in looking into electronic notification as well. And if some of those who oppose today are interested in working together and agreeing on electronic notification, I'm interested in that discussion. And then finally, Mr. Chair's question about constitutionality, we're not aware of any case in California or elsewhere that would call into question the constitutionality of this measure.
Thank you.
With that, I appreciate your consideration and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
The motion is due pass to appropriations. Jones Sawyer.
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Melendez. Melendez, no. Lackey. Lackey, no. Lopez. Lopez, aye. Lowe. Quirk.
Aye.
Quirk, aye. Santiago. Santiago, aye.
The measure passes. You're out. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you.
And now, Mr. O'Donnell. AB 1771, item 14.
Howard, you're here.
This should be cool. Whenever you're ready, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'd like to start by accepting the committee amendments, and thank you for your hard work, consultants. Today I am pleased to present AB 1771, which will help keep human traffickers behind bars, which I believe is a good thing. Criminal street gangs have been continually evolving new methods to fund gang activities for decades. In recent years, they have turned to commercial sexual exploitation as a new source of illicit income. While law enforcement has had success curtailing human trafficking operations, their efforts can be hampered by witnesses refusing to testify due to the threat of retaliation. In these instances, prosecutors must ultimately settle on a charge of supervising prostitution for those who are clearly in charge of these operations. The maximum penalty for this crime is only 6 months, the same as the prostitutes they oversee, who are often victims themselves. Judges need discretion to recognize when this crime is part of a larger operation and deal a necessary blow to these operations. AB 1771 does this by increasing the maximum penalty for supervising prostitution to 1 year and clarifying the activities that can be used as evidence when prosecuting this crime. And I have a witness here with me today, Mr. Chair and committee members. Here to testify in support is Doug Halbert, the city prosecutor for the city of Long Beach. Also, we have with him Ms. Pooja Kumar, a deputy city prosecutor from the city of Long Beach, who is specifically assigned to human trafficking issues.
Okay, you have about 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. According to the California State Attorney General's Office, human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, an estimated $32 billion industry per year. While some may consider human trafficking a third world problem, the reality is it is happening right here in California, and urban areas like Los Angeles County and the Bay Area are the prime locations where girls and women are sold each and every day. AB 1771 brings the penal code up to date to recognize the growing trend of sex trafficking. When the current law was written about 20 years ago, human trafficking wasn't being talked about and certainly did not get the exposure it gets today. Most sex trafficking victims are girls and women of color. In Long Beach, it is reported that about 87% of all victims of sex trafficking are Black, Latino, or Asian. Victims of human trafficking suffer devastating physical and psychological harm. This harm only grows over time as the victim is often detained or arrested for prostitution, while the trafficker gets a slap on the hand and only faces a low-grade misdemeanor. According to the Long Beach Police Department, which is one of the leading law enforcement agencies fighting human trafficking, about 80% of the girls and women detained for prostitution have been forced or coerced into this life. They are really the victims of trafficking. However, only about 10% of the time does the responsible criminal face any felony charges. The truth is that women who are forced into the sex trade are terrified of their traffickers and refuse to give statements to law enforcement. What happens to the perpetrators when the woman detained refuses to cooperate? All that police and prosecutors are left with is supervising a prostitute, a low-grade misdemeanor. On behalf of the City Prosecutor's Office and the Long Beach Human Trafficking Task Force, who co-sponsored this measure with us, I want to thank Assemblyman Patrick O'Donnell for his leadership on this issue. Long Beach has seen this grow in our jurisdiction, and we know it's growing in other jurisdictions. And reasonable measures like this are important. AB 1771 does not elevate the crime of supervising a prostitute to a felony. It simply gives judges the discretion in certain extreme cases to sentence up to 1 year in county jail. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other witnesses?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Michael Arnold, representing the City of Long Beach, here strongly in support of the measure for the reasons previously stated. And it is important, I think, to recognize that it does give the judge discretion in these situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support?
Mr. Chair, members, Sean Rondo with the California Peace Officers Association. Our letter missed the mark, but we are in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Sean Hoffman with the California District Attorneys Association, also in support.
Thank you. Are there any witnesses in opposition?
Morning, Chairman and members.
Good morning.
Dennis Cuevas Romero with the Hernandez Strategy Group here on behalf of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice, regrettably in opposition. We just saw amendments. We will consider the amendments relating to the gang portion. We appreciate the Assembly member taking the committee amendments. Unfortunately, we still have some concerns in regards to increasing the penalties for what under our reading is loitering for purposes of prostitution. We believe that this is counter to evidence-based practices that show increasing the penalties for prostitution is not the correct approach. Instead of providing services that doesn't include criminalizing this act.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Micah Doctoroff on behalf of the ACLU of California, also here in respectful opposition to the bill. We too just saw the amendments and appreciate the author accepting them. However, we too are still opposed to the bill for many of the same reasons as my colleague. This statute that the bill seeks to amend is already incredibly broad. The statute criminalizes not just directing a person involved in prostitution, but merely aiding that person. Directing itself can include conduct as minor as pointing. Further expanding the criteria to convict a person of this crime to include speaking or watching a person engaged in solicitation is unnecessary and could result in largely benign or innocent behavior being penalized. Under the bill, a person could be convicted of the offense for merely speaking with a person engaged in prostitution, and as such, the bill might have the unintended consequence of further criminalizing prostitutes, many of whom are vulnerable themselves and, as the author mentioned, victims. More serious or significant conduct is punished by a series of other statutes regarding pimping and pandering, and given the broad scope of this statute and the relatively minor behavior that it covers, doubling the maximum punishment seems unwarranted and excessive, particularly when research has shown that more severe sentences do not actually enhance public safety. So unfortunately, we remain in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses?
Khalif Asagai with the California Public Defenders Association in opposition for the reasons previously stated.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee members? Look to my left, look to my right.
So if this bill dealt solely with human trafficking, I could support it. Unfortunately, it deals with any kind of prostitution. We had many witnesses, including people who admitted being in the sex trade, talking about the fact that this is a free choice for many people. For others, it's simply a choice because they have no other way of earning a living. You can have a brother or friend of the prostitute providing protection for that person who, again, is doing this perhaps out of desperation, no other way to make money, and then put that person in jail for a year. I just don't think this is an appropriate way to treat this problem. Again, if this were strictly with regard to human trafficking, I could support it, but it covers all prostitution. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Lackey.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for the author. The opposition mentioned a concern about there's a portion of your bill here in Section 2653.26 where it talks about a violation of any provision of this chapter, which also would include unlawful loitering, is that an intentional thing in your bill, or is that just kind of something you would be willing to look at?
Real quick, the bill is a work in progress for sure, and I applaud the committee staff. We've already made significant changes to the bill, but why don't I let the city prosecutor speak to that directly?
Certainly, the language in 653.26 currently reads a violation of any provision of this chapter, and then it goes on to explain as a misdemeanor subject to 6 months. We did not replace the word chapter with section, but it is certainly the intent of this bill to target supervising a prostitute, not necessarily loitering for prostitution. And this section, as written, would bring into it, into the chapter 653.22, which is the section I believe that you're referring to. It's something that we're going to look at because, again, the target is going to be those that are supervising, not those that are actually engaged in prostitution or even loitering for prostitution. We're going to look at that and figure out the best way to address those issues.
Thank you.
But again, a relevant question.
Okay. Are there any other questions from committee members? Okay. Mr. O'Donnell, I had concerns, and I'm glad that you took the amendments. Those were my main concerns. I'm going to go ahead and recommend that we go ahead and approve it with amendments. I would take Mr. Quirk's concerns seriously. We don't want to get to a point where someone asks Mr. Lackey something, he says, I don't participate, and he says, go around the corner, and he gets arrested. So we don't want anything like that to happen. Even though we would never.
You don't have to worry about me on this issue.
But it's I know I'm being a little facetious, but it is a concern that we don't use it to over prosecute or to go into areas that I don't think the intent of this bill is. And so as we hopefully move forward, you can clarify as best we can the intent and what we're trying to do.
Thank you, and thank your staff again for helping us narrow that down. Again, the intent here is to focus on the supervising, not the prostitute or the trafficked victim, if you will. So with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote, Mr. Chair and committee members.
I need a motion. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
The motion is due pass as amended to appropriations. Jones Sawyer.
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Lackey. Lackey, aye. Lopez. Lopez, aye. Lowe. Quirk. No. Quirk, no. Santiago. Santiago, aye.
That measure passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mainshine, 1821. Item number 18.
Move the bill.
Don't talk past the yes. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and staff, and I would respectfully request an aye vote on AB 1821.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. And would you like to add something?
We support the bill. The ARC and United Cerebral Palsy California collaboration.
Are there any other witnesses in support? I think we're going too fast for everybody else.
John Lovell on behalf of the California College and University Police Chiefs Association and the Los Angeles County Professional Peace Officers Association, both in support.
Thought you would have to give us your laundry list of...
Well, we could incorporate them by reference.
Gail Stewart on behalf of San Diego County District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis. We are in strong support.
Thank you.
Sean Hoffman with the California District Attorneys Association in support.
Thank you.
Good morning, members. Matt Seiberling on behalf of the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, Los Angeles Police Protective League, the Riverside Sheriff's Association, all in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition? Are there any? Oh, there you go.
In the spirit of this hearing, we'll keep this very short. This is Micah Doctoroff on behalf of the ACLU of California here in respectful opposition to the bill.
Khalif Pasagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders Association in respectful opposition.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee? I look to my left, I look to my right. No questions. Chair is going to recommend an aye vote. Would you like to close?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Jones Sawyer.
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Lackey. Lopez. Lopez, aye. Lowe. Quirk.
Aye.
Quirk, aye. Santiago. Santiago, aye.
That measure passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
for your scathing testimony.
I know it's compelling, so
It's
thank you.
compelling. Chavez, Gibson, Melendez, and okay, yeah, Melendez, 1869, item 22. We're going to be here a while, so we might go. Yes.